Welcome to the Javier Mendez podcast. I'm back with Javier. This is camp season. Khabib is back in town. Islam's back in town. Umar's back in town. And all his other brothers are back in town. And the camp is flooded. There's a lot of people at the gym. I was on the floor today. It looked like there's at least 100 people. How is it, Jav, when people just flood the place when, Khabib's back in town?
It probably increases about 30% more. So if we have a general, say 30 people, him coming, it usually adds another 20 something more to the group. So it's probably 50 something people total.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a lot for a gym because our rooms are not that big. So that's a lot for the big room, which is not that big of a room.
It looks big when you're there by yourself, but then you put about 100 guys on there, as we can see in this picture, and that doesn't even have everybody in the background.
Yeah, but you say 100 guys, but it's more like 50, if that.
Certainly feels like 100. Yeah, it's been, I've been there doing a lot of filming, so listen, if you guys are liking the channel, make sure to tune in. I'm giving you some really killer stuff. New camera, new footage, really high quality. And you're going to want to subscribe because we got good stuff, and Hobbs giving me access to film stuff.
Why are they going to want to subscribe? Why? Tell me.
Because they're going to hear our podcast, but they're going to see the behind-the-scenes stuff too.
Well, if they're really interested, but why are they going to want to subscribe? Is there another reason?
Well,
what do we have? Are we giving them great stuff that nobody else can give them?
I think so.
Oh, okay. So that's the ticket. They can't get this from no one else?
Nah. I think everybody's trying too hard. We're just saying it how it is.
Oh, okay. All right. So you're getting stuff from us that you can't get from anybody else because we just say it like it is, right? Okay, got it. All right.
Exactly. It's the
Good to go.
Top secret formula.
Okay.
So, what do we have? Fights. You saw Zubaira do great this weekend. We get to do a last-minute plug for him. He didn't have staff this time, so like I said in the last podcast, I think he's going to come out and he's going to show out. And I bet you were really happy to see that.
Well, yeah, and look at his opponent. His opponent was a much tougher guy, seasoned guy. Aguilar was no joke. That guy was really, really good. And they talked about how good he was. So you can see from his previous fights that Kevin Aguilar is really good, and Zubaira showed that he's at that level and has always been there. It's just it was hard to show when you're running out of gas, and that's what happened last time. And I know I'm bitching about it, but it's a fact. If you watch the fight, the poor guy was barely hanging in there just to take the guy down. He couldn't even breathe. He just fought everything he could just to hang on. And it's a big difference when a guy doesn't have that. And no one really fully understands what staph does to you if you're on antibiotics. If you're on antibiotics, if you have staph and you're not on antibiotics, it doesn't do anything to you. But the antibiotics is what kills you.
Well, it takes you down 30-40% of your cardio,
if not more.
Yeah. So the antibiotics are the anti-fighter pill, I guess.
Yeah, and if you don't take it, then you run the risk of your life too. So, which is the worst of the two, right? Oh yeah, I don't want to take it because I don't want to affect my fight. Well, yeah, you want to die? You better take it.
To somebody who's never had it, they're like, yeah, that's an excuse. But then when you saw it, like there was a fight with Kevin Lee, he had it popping off
his chest.
Yeah.
I saw it when he came walking out against Tony. I went, oh man, he's got staph. And I said, oh boy, he's in trouble. So he comes out like a barn burner. You see how it takes Tony down real quick, mounts him, just working him. All of a sudden, Tony being Tony doesn't let up on anything. Still the same Tony from the very beginning to the end. But that wasn't the same Kevin. Kevin got just destroyed cardio-wise. And then, of course, when you go up against a great fighter like Tony, you're going to get destroyed, and that's exactly what happened. And, Tony might have got destroyed in many ways, but the bottom line is that the staff contributed to that destruction.
Yeah, I was like, I saw the guy's energy level just go boo, first round and a half, I guess. And it's like people were saying, no, that staff is real, and made me a believer. And then when I heard that Zubaira had it over when he was fighting in Abu Dhabi, you could see that fight like he was fishing for air. He was struggling. He needed a snorkel or something, man, like he was underwater. And he still made it through the fight, though. That's a lot of respect. That's the heart that the Dagestani fighters bring, man. So I was down there today. I was watching Khabib run wrestling practice. And
Khabib was running wrestling practice?
Yeah.
Oh, because Bunch was in here, and neither was Ed Ruth and Duran's Yeah, yeah. Okay, okay.
Well, actually, he was collaborating with Duran. They were helping, but he led the workout where you do all the the duck walks and the knee walks and the body rolls, the judo rolls, the back rolls, and the neck rolls, and all that good stuff. And it's like I used to do that in traditional martial arts. And I was like, they must be doing that back overseas. Did you guys do it like that before he came along? Was that part of your guys' warm up, or is that something's always been there?
I have no idea. I'm never there on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I don't know what they do. I don't watch wrestling. I don't watch jujitsu. I don't know how to wrestle, and I don't know any jujitsu. How the hell am I a coach? Well, I am. Yeah.
That's a good one. Well, you and I had a discussion. We were talking about Salim, right? And one of our favorite guys, he's just a gentleman. He's a great fighter, looked amazing coming into this Bellator fight. And he was fighting out in Oklahoma and or Thackerville, right? And he looked like he 100% took the first two rounds and he didn't finish. And he had a guy sitting off the side of him like a backpack. And I scored the round in his favor. And I never saw a round, a fight decided by a guy hanging off you, not advancing, not putting any submission threats, not punching you, not elbowing you, just hanging there like a backpack, like a koala bear on your side.
Yeah, the thing about that one that bothered me is first two rounds, Salim was the aggressor. He had the higher contact. He controlled the fight longer. The guy didn't control it hardly at all. The guy had a few attempts, but they were nothing to speak of. So first two rounds were totally Salim in the striking area, in the control area. The guy took him down. He got up real quick. There was no, so the takedown's nullified by the fact that you got up right away. So there was no control on his side. The guy was backing up. He wasn't the aggressor. So then, I'm thinking, okay, he definitely won the first two rounds, but I already knew he lost because you told me he lost a horrible decision. So I was watching. I go, okay, everybody's telling me that he got robbed, and I looked at it. I go, yeah, the first two rounds were hard to judge against him. John McCarthy judged them for Salim, no problem, hands down, Salim. The third round, I mean, based on upon the fact that the guy did control him in the sense of jumping on his back. And I mean, I can guess you can give him that round. I guess I would give him that round, but not like a landslide by any means, like he did any damage. He did zero damage. He just held on his back, like you said, like a backpack, and the damage was done by Salim. As soon as he got off, the guy's limping all over the place because his leg was hurt, so damage on that round was Salim. The judges and I don't know, man. They just frustrate me because they suck. And Dana White's always said it: don't leave it to the judges. And we can say whatever we want, but a lot of times we leave it to the judges. And this was one of those cases.
It's kind of hard to knock out a swarmy wet blanket octopus of a guy, especially if he's just tying you up, tying you up, tying you up. But I mean, in the first two rounds, Salim did reverse everything. He did get dominant position. He was on top of the guy, side mount. I think he even got to mount. I mean, he was getting there,
He got everywhere.
right?
Yeah, I mean, look, let's put it this way: it was a lackluster performance. Salim did not perform to expectations. Did not perform nowhere near the way he was performing here in the gym. I don't know. I wasn't there. Why? I just know he didn't. His coach Jerry Ferrillo, you can hear him saying "bang, bang him, bang him, bang him." People go, "What the hell is bang him?" So, but everybody knows what when he said bang and what he means in 50-50 means when he says 50-50, it's more stability, stay in the center of the ring, keep your balance, look for the takedowns. And he didn't do that either. Salim didn't look for any takedowns. When you dominate a guy on the ground, you don't just strike with him, you do everything with him. And Salim didn't do that, and his stand-up, he even though he dominated, it didn't look that great. His ground and pound was almost non-existent. That's another thing too that Salim needs to improve on is, you have somebody in dominant positions, strike him. He didn't. He didn't do enough. So he clearly won the rounds, but if he would have done more, you never know. The judges might have gave it to the guy anyways. Maybe it was the fix was in. I don't know. I'm betting to think that there's no such thing, but I don't know. I see something like that and I go, what the hell were they thinking? But I've seen it a lot in Texas, especially. And this was in Texas, but in Texas, I see a lot of robberies.
You've had a few guys. I mean, of your fighters over time, percentage wise, how many robberies out of 100 fights?
I don't know, hard to count, but I mean, Blagoy against Derek Lewis, Mowgli Benitez, Gabriel Benitez, Alejandro Perez said a few. Quite, there's other people. It's on and on. I mean, that's just me crying sour grapes, to be honest with you. So it's best just hey, we've lost some close ones that I thought we should have won, but we guys got to keep moving forward. We can't stop. It is what it is. And you can't let a loss define you. You got to let the victories define you. So you got to go out there and search for the victories. And that's what I'm doing. I'm not letting a loss define who I am or who my team is. No, we're going after the victories. And so if we get knocked down, we're getting back on and we're learning what we need to do to fix or help improve. And a lot of the times it's just a strategy. It's not anything else other than strategy, wrong strategy. That's why I believe in MMA. It's like a chess game, because if you screw up, you're checkmated. And that's, if you know how to play chess, it doesn't matter how good you are, you're checkmated because you made the wrong move.
Let's talk about Deontay Wilder and the Gypsy King, who is the king now, the heavyweight boxing. That was an amazing fight. I mean, I saw the Gypsy King different than, he was a counter fighter. The first fight, maybe showing too much respect to Deontay. And, I'd seen him fight Klitschko the same way, where he danced away from the guy's stuff a lot. And that takes a lot of energy to avoid punches instead of giving some out too sometimes. I mean, they both take energy, but I saw him just advance, like just lay the hammer down. I mean, how did you like that fight, Hav?
I only saw clips, and the clips I saw, he looked amazing, man. Amazing. And at first I heard he put on all that weight. He wouldn't take his shirt off. He changed coaching. I mean, he did a lot of changes. And I'm like thinking, oh, man, normally that happens too close out to the fight. That's not a good sign. But apparently in this case, it worked out fantastic for him because, you can see what he did. He came right after him. He scored with great hammering shots, man, he looked dominating in the clips I saw. He looked amazing. He looked amazing. And then, he's an amazing performer too. So the guy is very marketable, very likable. And it still amazes me how these two guys, one 6'7", one 6'9", and they could box as well as he does, especially Fury. That man could box. He could box.
You're talking basketball players with boxers' hands, man. I mean, these guys could have played hoops. And,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Well, what was that? Tony was saying, like, yeah, he's got the body of a basketball player. Well, he's about as tall as one, too. Nothing's
Pretty much.
with her, right?
They weigh the same. Deontay weighs about the same, and which brings us to, if you don't weigh that much, why the hell are you wearing a 40-pound suit to go out there? You know how much weight you got on you for all that period of time? It's a little bit draining. It's like a sweet science is boxing. So you gave away that little sweet science, just that little bit of edge you gave. Man, they checkmate you. If you've been involved in boxing, like I've been involved in boxing for many years, and I basically all my training I did was pro boxing gyms, and the vast majority of the people I've sparred in my whole life were pro boxers. So I know what it's like, and I've done it, and it's happened to me when you meet a really experienced guy, and how he'll go even with you, 1 round, 2 round, 3 round, but all of a sudden he starts breaking you down. He's got you figured out, and all of a sudden he turns on the heat, and you can't handle it, and then you're done. So in boxing, they call it the sweet science for a reason. So once they figure you out, dude, you're done. You can't do nothing, But it's a matter of them figuring you out. And in this case, it looks like from what I'm hearing that Fury figured him out right away because he pounced on him, and Deontay didn't have an answer for him. So obviously, so they stopped the fight, right? And of course they stopped the fight, and now you got one coach saying should have let him go out on his shield. You got the other coach, Mark Breland, a world champion himself, a great boxer, one of the greatest amateur boxers of all time, saying save it for another day. I'm kind of been put in that situation myself too. It's a hard decision, man. What do you do if your fighter is that blood and guts guy? He's going to let me go out of my shield, or, he's the kind of guy that wants you to save him, man, it's a tough position to be in. And I don't envy any of those coaches, the one that pulled the trigger and the one that talked about not pulling the trigger. I don't envy either one of those guys. I'd hate to be in those positions because I have been there and it sucks.
You remember the early days of the UFC we saw the white towels flying over the cage. You don't see that anymore, but we used to see that a lot back in the early days.
No, they're not allowed to. You're not allowed to do that. And the way I think the rules have changed where we're now, before, the way we can stop a fight is we have to look at the team doctor and we have to tell them we want to stop the fight. But when you're watching the fight, it's right in front of you. And then you look over to the side to the doctor, things change up there. So it's kind of like, it's a rough thing, you know? So it's kind of like, you know, the Diaz brothers did it, right? They went up on the canvas and they stopped the fight about doing it that way. And that's the right way to do it. But we are all programmed to look at the doctor, and it shouldn't be that way. We should just be throwing the towel, because then you'll find a lot of MMA fights will be stopped by the towel too. They implement the towel just like they do in boxing, or they stand up on the apron like they do. I think you'll see a lot more stoppages in MMA if they do that for the rules to stop a fight instead of the other way they have it now.
Well, I mean, I was watching it. I thought the guy was out on his feet. He looked like a baby deer being born, being birthed into the world. He's like he was drunk walking. The guy was out of it. He was looked concussed, man. And the crazy thing is to think about how, the Gypsy King has fought as a counter fighter all this time until today, until recently. And he says, oh, I'm a big, strong man. I'm going to, because we were questioning whether he had a punch, and maybe a guy is not really implementing that power if he's moving backwards all the time. There are great counter punchers. Chuck Liddell was renowned for that. Come at me, bam, overhand right. That's what you saw.
Yeah, but how much of this really was affected by the costume too? You don't know. Weidler's mentioning it, so it's something to pay attention to. So I don't know. I'm not in their shoes. I'm not there. I just know what's being said, and there could be some truth to the costume being way too heavy, because I know 40 pounds, bro, you're in a 40-pound suit and you're out there for how long he's had that thing on? He had it on for a while. That's a lot of draining of your energy, a lot.
Maybe I would have waited till the fight was over to put the costume on.
I think so.
Right. So we got another thing, one of our last topics up today, and we'll be getting some fan questions soon. Oh, I'll bring something up actually before I jump ahead to that. Somebody was seeing something like, the fans, can you keep the fans away? We're worried about Khabib. Like, I think maybe they misunderstood our podcast. Like the fans were crowding him too hard. Like he wasn't getting enough focus, but he's getting nothing but 100% at the gym and focus. And he's got people that look out for him. He's always got a good entourage with him. Right?
No, he's fine. He's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, fans aren't going to get to see him like they'd like, and fans that are coming down here without notice, you can't expect that okay, he's going to be here and have time for you when he can't just be here for you and talk to you. He doesn't know you. I mean, about the most you may get is a picture if you get that. Because he's so busy, and he's focused on what he needs to do. And a lot of people feel they're connected to him, and they feel like, oh, I just want to tell him about my life, and maybe he can help me. It's like, dude, you know how many millions of people actually want to talk to this guy? It's like, it's not realistic. And some of these people, they're just not realistic, but they're fans. So you got to treat everybody nice, and it's hard for him. It's hard being him, because he's not going to treat anybody mean. But he did do one thing I saw, and because the person kept coming, and he's an autograph dealer, and he said, hey, you keep coming all the time I'm here, and you always want signature after signature, because I'm not going to sign no more. And you know what? I told him, I said, Khabib, if they're autograph guys, maybe sign a little bit, but after that, say, give me a name. What's the name you want me to sign him to? Because if you're a real person that's doing it for fans, give me the person's name, and I'll put their name on it. And that would change all that, because these guys that are selling these things, if you put a name to it, they can only sell it to Ray or Sue or Johnny. They can't sell it to everybody. Nobody wants to buy autograph, item with Khabib's signature that says to Johnny.
That's a great counter to that one. Huh? I mean, I see guys roll up outside and they get a handful of goodies. Oh, here's 20 gloves on a thing. Sign these away. Here's 3 pens. And then there's just the regular fan. Hi, Khabib. Oh, you're the greatest. Can I take a picture with you, me and my baby? Well, that's okay. But they're not sitting there like, sign my baby. You know what I mean? Sign this.
No. The majority of them are good, but there is the autograph guys that make money out of it. And he acknowledges that. And one in particular, just one time, this one person kept every day. He'd be here in the morning. He'd be here later. So, I mean, and you can't blame that guy. He's making a living, That's what he does, making a living, getting an autograph from these celebrities, and he sells them. That's how he makes a living. So good for him. But if you're tired of that, good for you. You don't want to sign anymore. Like I know Herschel Walker when he was training with me. And for those who don't know, Herschel Walker was one of the greatest collegiate football players of all time, who went on to fight for the World Football League under Donald Trump when they had that first World League. And Herschel was with Trump at that time, and then he went into the NFL with the Dallas Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles. Whatever. Anyways, Herschel would come out and do 15 minutes or so with these autograph guys. And I say, Herschel, why are you doing it? He goes, they got to make a living. I'm okay. It doesn't cost me much time. But I tell him, I'm only going to do 15 minutes or 10 minutes. After that, no more. And I said, okay. But if you have it in your mind to do that, and that's what Herschel does, is cool. But in all fairness, if Khabib was known to do that, Khabib would never get out because there'd be too many people lining up the door for that.
People got to respect their space, and his photographer, Carlos, is always guarding him and making sure they get in line. That's one good thing I got to say. Carlos is definitely looking out for Khabib.
Yeah, he's looking out for him, but he's afraid of the world's tallest building. Chicken.
We'll have to have him talk about that. They look back at your Instagram.
I thought he was faking it. I thought he really was faking it. I just he's faking it. No, he wasn't faking it. He was real.
That was one of the funniest videos I ever saw. At the same time, I'm laughing but feeling bad for the guy. He was terrified.
I didn't know if to feel bad for him or what, because I really thought he was faking it.
Right?
It wasn't until the end that I realized that this was not. It wasn't an act. It was actually real. So yeah, that was funny.
Well, how many stories was that building? You guys were in Dubai, right?
150. I don't know, 150, 60 something. We only went to 130 something floors though.
130 something floors, and that took like a minute or something. Super elevator.
It was really fast. Your ears kind of popping. It was fast, man. Real fast. Whoop! You're up there, and you're like, wow. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's amazing. You don't really get the good feel of it because it took so long, and you're not really seeing, outside as you're going up. So it'll probably make people throw up if they were able to see what's going on, right? It was inside. It was all colored and, lights and everything. So it was kind of cool.
Oh, I talked with our young potential guest, the Aussie gentleman. We had coffee this morning. He's great. He would be fun to have on the podcast. Bam Bam. He's definitely a cool dude. Ty Tabasa.
Yep, he's a good kid.
He had to go to the doctor today. Had to get something fixed.
Yep.
Get checked up, but he'll be back. He'll be on here. So the last thing we're going to go with is coronavirus. Make this one a little shorter today. Now we have a fighter out of AKA, not we, Javier does. I'm just there, so I'm saying we. But Arjun Singh is fighting for the title fight of ONE FC, which is pretty good because he's an Indian guy, and they're going to go to India, and he'll get to shine for them. That's one of the biggest organizations in Asia. But the coronavirus, they put out an article recently, like, I don't know if they were going to cancel. They could have canceled, but they're not going to open the fight, probably closed set, and not have it to the general public. I mean, what do you think about this crazy coronavirus, how it's affecting the world just on the fighting level and beyond?
Well, if it's affecting it in a fighting level, it's going to affect it on a every level you can think of. Think about this: if it becomes an epidemic here, think about what it will do here. Schools will be shut down. Gyms like mine will be shut down. Restaurants will be shut down. Everything will be shut down where people are mingling with people. They're going to want you to stay inside. And it could happen. It really could happen. You just read the world news and you see what's going on. And right now in the U.S., it's really not been known to come here yet, but it hit Italy. It hit different other parts, Iran, I think. It hit Korea. It's hit different parts, Hong Kong. It's hit different parts of the world, man, it's a serious deal. I don't know enough about it, but I know enough that it could become epidemic. And if it does, we as a world are in trouble. And its mortality rate, I believe, is 2%. Well, it doesn't sound like much, right? But hell, man, it's like 2%. If you got millions and billions of people infected, 2% was 2% of billions.
That's too much. Millions. It's millions.
Yes.
I mean, that's more than a war.
And the other thing too is they're saying, and they're not confirming it, but there's allegations that it may be man-made. If that's the case, nothing how tough that's going to be to beat.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in Italy, and it's in my home region, in the Veneto region of Italy. And I used to think of that place as safe, beyond the reach of anything dangerous, anything, crazy, and it's all over there. So if it's in Italy, I guess it's even made its way to Iran. Did you know that?
Was that?
It made its way to Iran.
Yeah, no, I saw that. I saw it. I said Iran, I believe, didn't I? I'm not sure. Maybe I didn't.
So you're not going to China anytime soon.
I don't think anybody's going to China anytime soon. I think, to be honest with you, I think the bad part about it, I think a lot of people are going to avoid Chinese stations, and a lot of people, because a lot of people, they don't want to take a chance. A lot of people are going to be told, hey, you got friends, you got this, you got that. I mean, it could turn into a really bad thing if you think about it. If it really comes epidemic, then, man, you're talking about, who's your friend? What is he? And you go, what are you talking about? What is he? He's my friend. He goes, no, what nationality? Where's he from? I don't want you playing with him. That stuff can happen. I'm telling you, because that's what people do. They freak out, and they what they do, they freak out and they attack what they don't understand, what they fear most, and that's something that, like that, it's just, think about the just enormous impact it can have. And then this happened. Well, even think about the fighter from China, the champion. She came in early because fear of that. When have you ever seen that happen, where a champion comes in early to train for fear of not being able to come because of the epidemic over there?
Well, I wonder how Arjun feels. I mean, I haven't asked him, how do you feel? And I don't even know whether to bring it up. He may or may not see this podcast, but how do
I
you
don't think
feel?
he's feeling good about it. How would you feel? It's like, shit. You're in a situation, and something that, like this, it's either human made or regardless, it's the nature of the world. And yeah, it's not a good thing. Not a good thing at all.
I wouldn't take the fight. I wouldn't take the fight just out of the maybe. I'd weigh the money. I'd say, yeah, it's my chance, but let's wait till this passes. Let's reschedule that, man.
But also, you got to remember, it affects 2%, and normally it's the elderly that have respiratory problems, or the young, real young. Usually, someone like Arjan will probably never get it because he's not in that category. He's really strong, very healthy. So for people like him, it's probably nothing. It's the elderly and the really young, or if you have some kind of ailment that causes problems, those are the ones that get it.
Well, to parry off that, I mean, Arjun's going to fight for the title, and he's fighting a guy that was in the UFC before, and who's been the reigning champion. How do you feel about his chances going into this fight?
He's going to win. That's how I feel. Straight up. Quit looking elsewhere. You're looking, I don't know what the hell you're looking at.
I'm looking at you.
No, you're looking to the side like this. You're
I was looking at the
distracted.
computer.
What are you doing?